Good morning. The balloons are for me. It's my birthday today. Yeah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Is anybody here from Texas? You are? Really, Mary Ellen? I didn't know that. Anybody else? David Adams from Texas, yeah. Any other Texans in the crowd? Well, okay. The next 6 weeks, we are going to do a series on relationships. And the point is that relationships are everything. You come into this world, you're born. At some point in time, your life will be complete. You'll leave this world. And in between, there is a line, a timeline. You refer to it as your lifetime. And every single thing that you do during your lifetime is interacting with or relating to something, somebody, yourself, or higher power. Everything is relationships. Now, with that kind of importance, you would think that we would be trained better, that we would learn principles about how to successfully relate with each other from kindergarten on. It is the most important thing in our life in regards to well-being, in regards to happiness, in regards to feeling healthy and whole. It's all about relationships. Has anybody here ever been engaged in a conversation with a loved one or a good friend, and there's a little difference that comes about, and that difference begins to swell, and as the difference becomes greater, our voices become a bit louder, our words become a bit more harsh, and pretty soon one little difference between two people turns into this incredible conflict, and words are said. That might hurt, that might be very critical of the other person, but it tears or it creates a separation in the relationship that doesn't feel good. Now, that can happen as well with somebody in the street that you've never seen before, or at the grocery store. You have some sort of a difference, the conflict develops, you walk away, but the point is you don't feel good. Relationships are absolutely everything in our lives. Now, for a successful relationship, there are 4 components that have to be met. Imagine that you're building a house. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to lay the foundation. The foundation has to be strong and has to be sturdy. It has to support what is going to be built on top of it. It's the same thing with relationships. You have to have a foundation to build the relationship on. And the 4 key components are, first of all, peace. Peace of mind is the greatest thing that we desire. We can go through any sort of a difficult time, face any problem, any challenge, and if we maintain peace of mind, we're okay with it. Peace of mind, the greatest thing we desire. The second thing is harmony. Harmony is the natural state of the universe. It is our natural state. And no matter what kind of a difference that we're facing or a conflict, if we can continue to remain in harmony with the other person, it becomes more loving, which is the third thing, the third component in all successful relationships, and that is love. It's the greatest experience we can have. Nothing on earth, nothing in life matches the wonderful experience of love, whether it's giving or whether it's receiving. The fourth component is compassion, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Compassion is the willingness to engage with another person, embrace the feelings if they're having a difficult time, embrace their feelings as if they're your own. If they're feeling very sad, if they're suffering for one reason or another, you move into that place and you suffer with them. Without any expectation for what might happen, you are with them in that moment. Now, empathy is a willingness to feel another person's emotions. Altruism is to do something that benefits other people, but it doesn't necessarily have to have an emotional component. Like you can write a check out to some charity, and that is doing good. Somebody's going to benefit from it, but you don't really have that emotion that you do when you're interacting with another person. Compassion is empathy, being willing to feel another person's position, or their suffering, or their sadness, but then also doing something, actively engaging to make the situation a little bit better. Compassion is our future. It's not an accessory to life. It's not something that we can turn on or we can turn off. Last week I mentioned that compassion has actually evolved in our brain when the earliest life forms, the brain in the back of our head, it still exists, had no compassion. As it grew to the midsection of the brain, there was no compassion. But then when it evolved to what they call the neocortex, compassion appeared. And it appeared because it's absolutely essential for our survival. If humanity doesn't embrace compassion, and if they don't begin to act compassion out in everything they do and everything they say, down the road, eventually, we're going to be further and further apart, and humanity will cease to exist. Now, the problem with this is battles and wars, and even conflicts with other people, puts compassion on hold. During World War II, 52 Nazi scientists took prisoners of war and experimented with them. Actually, what they did is they put them in a tub of water, then they continued to lower the temperature of the water to see how long a human being could exist and at what degree of coldness they would perish. Now imagine this, scientists hovered around a tub day in and day out watching a person, a human being, watching them slowly and painfully freeze to death. And they did this without any emotion because they didn't have compassion. The compassion switch was turned off. Kelly Bunn shared this story with me. Another war, another place. Americans had been captured by the Japanese, and they were put on a train and they were moved around the country to help repair bridges and roads and other buildings that had been demolished by bombing. And at one point, the Americans were out doing their work, the American prisoners, and another train pulled up on a set of tracks right next to them, and it was filled with Japanese soldiers who had been wounded, who had become sick, or had become incapacitated in some other way. The American soldiers looked at these boxcars full of the Japanese soldiers who had been wounded, and what they saw was ghastly. Their clothes were little more than rags, and they were soiled with blood and mud. They were sitting in their own waste. They had open wounds that maggots were crawling in, and they were all crunched together in this boxcar because they were being shipped away from the war zone. They were an expense. They were no longer useful. They were getting rid of. If one of the soldiers on the train died, they'd simply throw him off and let him rot in the gutter. Now, how could the Japanese army do that to their own soldiers? How could the German scientists do that to another human being? That's the question. How can they do that? They have to be compassionless. Now, when the American soldiers saw these boxcars full of the Japanese wounded, without a word, without direction, they went to their packs, they took out rations, they took out canteens full of water, they got rags and they dampened them, and they served the Japanese food and drink and tended to their wounds. Now, this was their enemy. These are the same people they were trying to kill before they got captured. How could they do that? See, their compassion switch was turned on. Compassion is everything, not only in a global sense, but in our own personal relationships. When you find yourself in an argument with somebody, it's very simple to just pause for a moment and ask yourself, how would I feel if I was that person? When somebody vents rage or anger or harsh criticisms or whatever it is might be towards you, you know that it isn't you. Don't take it personally, that there's something within them that leads them to act that out. There's a toxicity to them that is uncomfortable. They have to vent it somehow, so they vent it out on the world around them. And we don't even have to know what it is, but we can have the compassion to know that they are suffering. If somebody lashes out and strikes out at another person, there's suffering going on inside, and we can have compassion for them. And just think, if I was that person, how would I want to be treated? Well, I'd want the other person to understand that this isn't really me, that I'm having a difficult time, I'm doing the best I can, I'm only human. Just try to understand. that there's something in me that hurts. And with understanding comes compassion. Jesus was teaching some people at one point in time, and in the crowd there was an adversary. He was a Pharisee. He was a keeper of the law, and he was an enemy of Jesus. And so the adversary raised his hand and said, of all the laws, which one is the most important? He was trying to trick Jesus. And Jesus says, love God, which is life. Love life with all your heart, and all your soul, and all your being. And love your neighbor. So the adversary raises his hand again. He says, well, who's my neighbor? And Jesus said, a man was walking down the road, and a bunch of robbers attacked him. They beat him. They took his clothes. They took all of his possessions, and they left him there half dead to die. A little while later, a priest came down the road, saw the man there, moved to the other side of the road, and continued on. Then a very wealthy and prominent person came down the road, saw the man laying there, moved to the other side of the road, and continued on. And then a Samaritan came down the road. Now, Samaritans weren't favored in that area. They were looked down on. They were considered unworthy. They were considered not good people. So Jesus specifically used a Samaritan, somebody that wasn't honored or loved by anyone in the crowd. He specifically picked a Samaritan. And he said the Samaritan came down the road, saw the man, knelt down, tended to his wounds, put him on his donkey, took him into town, put him in an inn, and sat with him until he was well. And then he asked the question, who was that man's neighbor? And the adversary said, the Samaritan. And Jesus very simply said, go and do likewise. And I think that's a charge, that is an objective, that is something that makes up the foundation of our relationships, is to go and do likewise. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, when you run into the face of suffering, however it is acting out, whether it's anger or wailing, just embrace that person with your feelings and do something to make it a little better. We're compassionate people by nature. We're social people by nature. We need social connection. That's one of our basic physical and mental needs. As a matter of fact, researchers tell us that a lack of social connection is more harmful to our health than smoking, high blood pressure, or obesity. We need that social connection. And you might have many relationships that are wonderful, that are loving, that are rewarding and beneficial. But if there is one, it's like a decay in one of the tooths or a cavity in a tooth. If there's one that isn't, that creates a sense of pain and suffering within you. Now, of all the relationships we have, they equate to the character of our lives. If you have angry relationships, you have an angry life of some sort. If you have relationships that are embedded in great resentment or hate or anger or whatever it might be, you have a hateful, angry life. Life is wonderful, it's beautiful, but when we hold on to those grudges from the past, when we continue to feed them with our thoughtful energy, they affect the whole body. It's like a sick cell in the body. So as we move into meditation, I would just like you to think about your life. If there is nothing disturbing in your life right now and all your relationships are cool, that is great. Then as you go into meditation, stop and think, what can I do to make this a better world? The next time I see somebody that is suffering, what can I do? One simple little thing to just make things a little bit better. We'll now move into meditation.
Amen. Please make yourself comfortable. Take a deep breath and hold it for just a moment or two, and then slowly exhale. And then another deep breath. And as you exhale, feel your entire body becoming relaxed and at ease. Feel your mind slowing down. And just for a moment, take your hand and place it over your heart. Breathe in and slowly exhale 3 or 4 times. Think of something in your life that you're extremely grateful for, something that blesses you, and just say thank you. Gratitude for having that in your life. Now again, with your hand over your heart, think of your world. The situations and circumstances you engage in, the people you relate to, the relationship you have with yourself, with your higher power. Of all the things in the world, what can you do to bless somebody or something? A simple little act of kindness. Slowly begin to come back to this time and this place. A line quite often pulled from Darwin's theory of evolution is survival of the fittest. But a more accurate line is survival of the kindest. Darwin said those communities that have the most compassionate people are the ones that will flourish the most. So go forth and flourish. And so it is.